bring in our next guest. Michael Benamu is director of OPIY, which is Europe's War Institute. Michael, thanks for being with us. I know you came to talk about another issue, but can I ask you about your feelings about what Trump has said? Because saying things like that Zelensky's rating is at 4%, he's a dictator because there's no elections in Ukraine and martial law has been imposed. But of course, that happens in the state of war. And obviously blaming Ukraine for starting the war when that is total nonsense. What do you think about Trump's words?
He's just trying to destabilize the situation, and he's successfully destabilizing the situation. This is a psychological shock for Europe and for Ukraine. It's of course false. Zelensky is not at 4%, he's closer to 50, 60%. As for the budget figures that he's giving, they are also very inaccurate. Basically, Americans have spent $40 billion per year on average in Ukraine, which is 120 approximately. Same for Europe. It's 120, 130 for Europe, which is a bit less than what Americans spent in Afghanistan during the last years. They spent $50 billion for Afghanistan 2019.
The danger here, though, that Trump is starting to sound like he's Vladimir Putin's puppet, isn't he? Like, you know, strings are being pulled by Putin and Trump's just saying what Putin wants him to say. It just seems that way.
I think there is an intent behind, which is a business intent. I think he's very interested in making business with Russia more than with Ukraine, frankly. I don't see American companies investing in Ukraine, which is destabilized, whose security is not guaranteed. I think the long-term view of Trump, if there is one, and I believe there is one, it's to open the Russian market to American companies. America is very much becoming an opportunistic country, like you see in the rest of the world, with the Global South, for example, doing multi-alignment. For example, India, Indonesia, Brazil. I think America is very much in that path of being very opportunistic.
So the discussion between the US and Russia in Saudi Arabia, are we reading from what you're just saying there, that that's been more about lining up commercial possibilities rather than trying to seek a solution for Ukraine?
No, Ukraine is not really important for this American administration. They're all about...
It's a terrible thing to say, isn't
America's economy is not doing well. You know, the global economy is stagnating at the moment, and it has been stagnating for many, many decades now. And so America is like many countries, is trying to stay afloat and stay in the game. And the way for them to stay in the game, according to Trump, is by being brutal, by being aggressive, and by forgetting past alliances, because alliances is very constraining. You know, alliances, they limit your maneuver. And so for the first time, America is publicly saying, we are doing something else, which is being on our own and doing anything we want to do.
You're saying that Trump's words, the sensationalization of what he is saying, you're saying his words are about trying to somehow deflect from the fact that things aren't working out the way he wants it to be. His ratings are down 3% already, down to 44%. That's by reporting from Reuters, a trustworthy source, Reuters.
I think, unfortunately, I mean, it's not just Trump. There's a trend in America's foreign policy. You look at AUKUS, for example, the submarine deal that the Americans have snatched from the French, $65 billion worth of submarine contract. Look at also, for example, the South Stream destruction, which is probably an American action. Look at also the fiscal tension between the US and Europe for the past decades. You know, it's. I know that many people are still in denial, especially in the center of Europe and in the east of Europe. But yes, America is diverging from Europe. It's not just this man. It's a system which is diverging from here, from Europe.
So if you were in Vladimir Zelensky's shoes this evening, what would you be thinking? Because clearly you can see when he makes his comment regarding what Trump said, he's really biting his tongue and trying to be as diplomatic as he can. But to come out and say he thinks Trump is living in a Russian misinformation bubble, it's possibly the biggest insult he could throw at Trump, isn't it?
I would do what he's doing. You know, I think it's pretty good over the past few days. I would push the Europeans to be stronger, push them to more European military cooperation, perhaps a NATO that would become European to a large extent. This is what OPY, my think tank, has been pushing for at least a year now on this set. And it's becoming a reality de facto because Americans are pulling out and the Europeans are now filling this organization with troops and with officers. So I think he's doing a good job as saying to the Europeans, you know, we have to do this ourselves now. The problem is we have the money, but the factories are in America. To sum it up in a few words, you know, we could basically cover for the $40 billion annual, you know, budget of America.
There's not enough manufacturing capacity here.
We could. America is spending $40 billion per year, so we could do it. You know, we could. Politicians could tell citizens, taxpayers, there is a problem. We have to solve it. But the problem is, the factories, 80% of them approximately, are in America, and Trump is not going to accept foreign military sales while signing a peace deal with Russia. So we have an issue of military capacities. They have been ramped up over the past few years. We can do more, but not enough.
Michael, we need to leave it there. There's so much more to be said, but sadly time against us. Michael Benhamou, Director of OPY, which is Europe's War Institute. Thanks for coming in and sharing your views with us here on France 24. The analysis is always invaluable in this story. And Michael, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.